WIS News 10 starts with First Alert Weather.
Welcome in, Billie Jean Shaw and Cynthia Beasley here to bring you an update as we continue to track Tropical Storm Debby as Debby is making its way toward the Midlands.
Absolutely, and we want to go live to a briefing with the governor as well as about 10 other state officials at the South Carolina Emergency Management Division.
Okay, with all, thank you for being here. We have Holly May helping us today. Josie McDaniel Burkett is somewhere. There she is. Well, there she is right there. So here we are again. We've had a lot of activity, and we'll start off today with Chaplain John Denny.
Thank you. Good afternoon. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, encourage one another and build each other up. Please pray with me. Great Creator, during times of stress and uncertainty, we can get frustrated and anxious. When this happens, help us to take a pause and seek patience instead of pessimism, choose kindness in place of contempt, and look for ways to encourage one another and build each other up. Help us to be good stewards of one another. Be with us, O Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Well, again, this is a storm that we have not seen before. There's parts of it have not been as bad as we thought, although they've been bad, but there are some parts coming that likely will be worse than what we have seen before and in some different areas. I'm glad to report that thus far, excuse me, we have not had any reports of any fatalities. We hope that it stays like that, and we want to urge people again to be safe. Think about what you're doing. Don't take any chances. And remember, this water can be very dangerous, particularly when it's moving. The threat of severe flooding across the state remains very high, and we'll get into that with some details in a few seconds. Heavy rainfall has already hit several parts of our state, especially the low country. And what we have happening is this storm is coming up. It's moving very slowly. It's got a lot of rain in it, and it is going out over the ocean and gathering some strength and coming back in. The winds have not been hurricane strength yet. They somewhere maybe between 35 and 55 miles an hour, something at their height, I think, if I'm right on that. But the water is going to be very heavy, particularly in the northern part of the state, from Myrtle Beach all the way up the line along North Carolina, all the way up to where you remember we had in 2018, that was Hurricane Florence, and where we had overflow in Conway, and we had to put the aqua dams on Highway 501 and all that, and we've never seen that kind of water there. Well, we're likely to see it again there as well as in the other areas around that part of the state. And also, you remember Joaquin in 2015, it wasn't a hurricane, but it was a flood. That came right here through the Midlands. We're likely to see that again. And you remember we had a number of dams breaking. We had water that was over the roads around Forest Acres. Cars were on the bridges there going across Gills Creek and being covered with water. And it comes up fast and it moves fast. So we're likely to have both of those areas having that kind of activity this time. Maybe not, maybe we will. But we're preparing for that kind of heavy rainfall and the danger that comes with that kind of flooding. We're confident there's going to be flooding. We're confident there's going to be a lot of rain. The only question is how much is it going to be? As I mentioned, we have no fatalities, but there have been instances of people driving around barricades. I ask everybody to remember somebody made a decision, competent people, to put that barricade there for a reason. Don't drive around the barricade. Don't drive through water. Don't walk through water like that. Be very careful. Also, yesterday we received a federal emergency declaration, which we had asked for, which provides assets for protection. That includes these swift boats. It includes some people, maybe helicopters, maybe vehicles, those kind of things. and we'll hear from a representative on that in a moment as well. Now later we will, of course, will be seeking money for reimbursement for money that we spent, as well as some money to help rebuild things if necessary that have been destroyed. Final point is, remember, please get your information only from official channels. Those are the only ones that you can have confidence in. Sometimes some of the worst tragedies are the result of someone meaning well, but providing inaccurate information or misunderstood information that results in a tragedy, and you cannot undo a tragedy. So we're going to see a lot of rain, not that much wind, but a lot of rain, and this storm is creeping across our state, creeping across. And so that's one of the reasons we have so much of this water. So we urge everybody to be careful, and now I'd like to call on John Quagliarello of the National Weather Service to provide details on what I just said and more. John?
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. So as the Governor had mentioned, a dangerous situation is unfolding across portions of the state, with life-threatening flash flooding ongoing, which has closed roadways and resulted in some water rescues. We've already experienced significant rainfall, with widespread 9 to 13 inches across southern South Carolina. Gusty winds have downed a significant number of trees across the coastal plain and eastern Midlands, causing some power outages. Some of the highest wind reports through midday so far include a 63-mile-an-hour gust at Folly Beach, 59-mile-per-hour gust at Battery Point in Charleston County, 56-mile-an-hour wind gust at Isle of Palms, 55-mile-an-hour wind gust at Beaufort, and 52-mile-an-hour wind gust at Charleston Airport. Tornadoes have also likely occurred in Edisto Beach, Kiowa Island, Monk's Corner, Ladies Island, West Ashley, and Isle of Palms. As of 2 p.m., Tropical Storm Debby had winds of 40 miles an hour and was located 10 miles southeast Savannah, so just moving offshore, and was moving east-northeast at 5 miles an hour. So its forward speed is already starting to come down. As the Governor mentioned, it's really starting to slow down. And it'll slowly lift northward just off the South Carolina coast through Wednesday, before it eventually shifts back onshore along the central or northern portion of the South Carolina coast Wednesday night through Thursday morning. With Debbie's slow movement, long-duration impacts are expected to persist through late week. Overall, the rainfall will remain the greatest concern, with 10 to 20 inches of storm total rainfall, with locally up to 25 inches of rain possible. This will likely result in catastrophic flash and urban flooding across eastern South Carolina. In addition to the flash flooding, rivers will rise significantly, with some of the greatest concern in the PD Basin. However, moderate to major flooding is still likely across the entire coastal plain. This river flooding could last long-term, cutting off access to some communities. I can't stress enough the need to avoid flooded roadways. Your life is not worth taking the risk. Winds will be a continued factor as well through late week, with gusts upwards of 45 to 60 miles an hour possible along portions of the northern and central South Carolina coast. However, even lesser wind speeds inland will be capable of knocking down trees and power lines due to the saturated grounds. It just doesn't take nearly as much wind to knock those trees down when the ground is so wet. We're also watching the storm surge threat, with 2 to 4 feet of surge expected along some parts of the coast. This could flood low-lying and typical flood-prone areas. And as for the tornado threat, that will persist through midweek, with a few tornadoes possible along the coastal plain. So given all these threats, we urge residents and visitors to follow the advice of local officials, and to get more information, please go to weather.gov. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, John. Director Kim Stinson, Emergency Management Division.
All right, thank you, sir. The State Emergency Operations Center moved this morning to operating condition 1, which is our highest readiness state. And our State Emergency Operations Center priorities include supporting local shelter and localized evacuation operations, as well as maintaining the transportation lifeline to the potentially impacted areas. South Carolina Emergency Management Division has a number of regional personnel, and we've deployed those to 9 counties to assist local authorities in their response and recovery efforts. We continue to closely coordinate with county emergency management officials. Right now, 22 counties are at some level of operation, with 7 counties at operating condition 1. Again, that's the highest readiness state, and then 15 counties that operate in Condition 2, which is a heightened awareness level, and that's probably going to shift here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Their primary focus includes sheltering operations, response including rescue operations and possible local evacuations. No major communications issues have been reported so far. Also, very few residential and business damages have been reported, and they're very preliminary, but we're early in the operation. Colleton County did report that they had probably about 50 houses that had been damaged to some extent, but again, that's very preliminary. Many counties are reporting blocked roads and localized flooding, and coastal counties in the first tier back are primarily where that's happening right now. In the logistics area, our Winnsboro warehouse is operational with food, water, sandbags, and tarps. Our general logistics, transportation, and commodities contracts have been activated if additional supplies are needed. So far, we've fielded 155 requests from the local authorities, and 125 of those are either completed or in progress. And those requests range from sandbags to swift water rescue assets. And under the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, we have requested support from other states, including 5 swiftwater rescue teams and an incident management team. We also have a team here from South Carolina, from Tennessee, to coordinate those requests as we move forward. The public information phone system opened this morning for residents to call in with any questions, and that number is 1-866-246-0133. Now that's on our website. It's also in the hurricane guide and a number of other sources as well. In closing, I'd like to mention again a few points we talked about yesterday. First, if you live in a flood-prone area, a low-lying area, identify higher ground where you can seek safety if needed. And certainly don't wait until it's too late. If you're advised to evacuate by your local officials, please do so immediately. And then certainly monitor the weather updates and follow the instructions again of those local officials. And our website at seemd.org and our South Carolina Emergency Management app are also excellent sources of information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stinson. I mentioned yesterday our federal partners, Rear Admiral Doug Schofield of the Coast Guard called yesterday, and also federal FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell called to offer reminders of their availability. And we have from FEMA today the Federal Coordinating Officer of FEMA, Brett Howard.
Thank you, Howard. Good morning. Brett Howard, I've been appointed as Federal Coordinating Officer, as the Governor just stated. Governor, it's an honor to work here in your state. Everything that South Carolina has done to this point has been remarkable. The briefings that you're about to hear will let you know and let the citizens know that the Governor, his cabinet, Director Stinson, and his staff know what to do, and they've got the plan in place to execute. And it's very comforting to work in a state that is this progressive and this forward-leaning to help the citizens and be ready to respond to anything that happens. And our concerns at FEMA go out, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and the communities who are fixing to have either already undergone or about to undergo possibly catastrophic and historic flooding in their areas, like the Governor said, like they've never seen before. Yesterday, the Governor talked about President Biden made a declaration for South Carolina. He turned on the ability for federal resources to come in and support the state. My job right now is to make sure that I am not late to the need. Whatever the Governor, whatever Director Stinson, whatever the state needs, I want to make sure we have it in place, ready to respond to whatever it is they need it to. And you've heard that we've already had we've turned over 5 urban search and rescue units, federal search and rescue units, teams that have that swift water capability to the state. It was their request, and we have sent them to the state to deploy as they see needed. And we're right now working with the Governor, the Director Stinson, their team to determine what else? What are we missing? What do we need to be thinking about going forward? What other federal resources can we bring in and have ready to deploy should the need arise? I want to reiterate what the governor and Director Stinson said. Pay attention, everybody, pay attention to what the local officials are telling you to do in those correct channels, not just hearsay, word on the street. Listen to them, heed evacuation orders if they're asking you to move, and just stay alert to the weather and and follow those instructions by your local government. Right now, we're coordinating with the state on anything they need, as I stated. We have our staff here, the IMAT team, Incident Management Assistance team arrived today. Other federal staff and agencies are en route, and we are poised to assist the state and whatever you need, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. General McCarty, Dan McCarty, National Guard.
Thank you, Governor. The soldiers, airmen, and employees of the Military Department of South Carolina, along with our State Guard, are continuing to work to be in a position to support the state in response to Tropical Storm Debby. We have currently over 100 soldiers on state active duty, and that number will continue to grow through today and tomorrow. We will have currently approximately 50 high water vehicles and recovery vehicles that are on duty. Priority given to the southern part of the state. We will continue to put and move vehicles to the central part of the state, as in the Charleston area, Berkeley, Georgetown area, and then on up into the PD region over the next day. We're continuing now to assess where the storm may carry us over the next few days, looking to determine what additional assets may be needed, whether it's military police, our engineers for debris clearing, or other things to support scenarios as described by the governor that we saw back in previous storms. Our aviation assets are prepared to support LLR in the search and rescue. Our HART teams are ready. However, weather conditions right now would preclude that from being a mission that we could undertake. We have 6 liaison officers currently deployed to affected counties, and we have additional liaison officers moving now. The Florida EMAC request for the 1053rd Trans Company, they've completed that mission. We will begin to demob and have them convoy back to South Carolina. Due to the weather conditions, that convoy will take probably 12 plus hours, with safety being the priority of getting them back here. Once they're back in South Carolina, we will look to remission those 30 additional vehicles for future missions that could come up. The dual status request form, the governor has signed that letter. It will be sent through channels. What that does is allow the state of South Carolina, the military, the National Guard, to better utilize federal assets, Title X forces, if the need were to arise. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Powell, Justin Powell, Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Governor. The state's transportation network is starting to feel the effects of Tropical Storm Debby's heavy rains. As of 1:30, we have 48 state roads that have been closed as a result of floodwaters. That number will be fluid as we go through this event, as roads are opened and closed as we go along. We've been keeping an eye on very closely on I-95 down in Jasper County. It is currently open to traffic. However, we have had to close ramps on exits 22 and 33 there due to flooding on the ramps. SCDOT has 2,300 personnel mobilized yesterday and has the same complement mobilized today, working round the clock to respond and recover from this event. With the rains anticipated to continue to fall through Thursday, we do anticipate more roads will flood during the course of this event. We strongly advise residents to stay off the roads if at all possible. If you do go out, we encourage you to take your time, drive slowly, and resist the temptation to go into floodwaters. It is simply not worth the risk. Thank you, Governor.
I would add to that, as Director Powell, Secretary Powell mentioned, the rain is going to continue to fall, we know, through Thursday. But when it gets into the rivers in North Carolina and up in the headwaters of the rivers in our state, it all comes our way, so it takes time. So a lot of this flooding will happen likely after that date. So we have to be alert for a long time. Let's see. Director Woods, Rob Woods, Department of Public Safety.
Good afternoon, Rob Woods, South Carolina Department of Public Safety. SCDPS operational priorities remain the same. We're responding to traffic collisions, disabled and stranded motorists, as well as assisting with road closures. Our number of personnel currently assigned to this operational period, which began at 7 o'clock this morning, will end at 7 o'clock this evening, is 235 law enforcement personnel assigned to patrol. That's from the Midlands to the coast. That includes personnel from SCDPS, or Highway Patrol and State Transport Police divisions, as well as personnel from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and the South Carolina Department of Pardon, Parole, and Probation. Tonight, we will have a total of 186 personnel that will be working the night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and that will also include DPS personnel, SLED, DNR, and Triple P. That's a total of 421 law enforcement personnel currently assigned to the mission. Just to give you some numbers in terms of what our calls for service have done over the past day. These are numbers from yesterday, from 7 a.m. to 7 p. and 7 p. to 7 a. this morning. And these calls, just so you know, again, are focused on what I've already mentioned: disabled motorists and stranded motorists, collisions, and then closed roadways. This is compared to last year at the same time. So from 2023 to 2024, last year during the same period of time, we had 231 calls for service during the day shift. This year we've had 340. During the night shift, the second shift, we had 344 last year, 113 last year, and 211 this year. So the total numbers in terms of calls for service over that 24-hour period was 344 for 2023 and 551 for 2024. So obviously our calls for service have gone up significantly. As I previously mentioned, highway safety is a partnership between law enforcement and the motoring public. So as we work to keep the motoring public safe, we ask that you all also work to keep yourself safe. And in a situation like this, the best advice I can give you is stay off the roads. And if you've got to travel, please adjust your driving behaviors according to the weather, and that is especially reducing your speed. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Director Wood. Director Mike Leach, Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Our agency mass care teams, volunteer organizations such as Red Cross and Salvation Army, and many others are working side by side with our counties to support shelters for those who are displaced by the storm. Currently, South Carolina has 11 open shelters, 2 shelters in Beaufort County, 2 in Berkeley County, 2 in Charleston County, 2 in Dorchester, 1 in Jasper County, and 1 in Orangeburg, and 1 in Williamsburg. We're in the process of opening more locations at county requests in Charleston, Florence, and Georgetown later today, and likely there will be additional shelters opening over the next 24 to 48 hours. And so, please check with your local emergency managers. The local county officials will be sharing that information when a new one opens up, or you can go to www.scemd.org or download the SC Emergency Manager app to find one near you. Marion and Dillon counties each requested shelter support with plans to open in the next 24 hours. And our agency is ready to support all locations and have the capability of supporting more as requested. What to bring? With all evacuations, it is important to bring a few things. Bring helpful documents, identification, homeowner or rental paperwork, insurance information, if you have any, and we recommend evacuees bring blankets, sleeping bags, pillows, and comfort items, medications, and any special foods if you're on a restricted diet. We have partners supplying food and water at all operating shelters. And if you forget any medication or vital durable medical equipment, we will do our best to assist in its replacement when it is safe to do so. So again, for shelter information, please go to scemd.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Leach. Director Myra Reese, Department of Environmental Services.
Okay, thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Our priorities at Department of Environmental Services remain the same, but I want to say that a key priority for us is to maintain open lines of communications with our local officials around the state to provide information and assistance. We have been having daily conversations with many county officials to help answer questions and offer guidance and recommendations as we all prepare and continue to experience this extreme weather event. Many of those conversations are centered around dams. And as you may be aware, I'm sure, severe weather events stress and really test our state's infrastructure, and dams are no exception. So here's an update as far as the dams in South Carolina, any impacts we've noted already. We've had only one report of one dam breach. That one was located in Colleton County. It was one of the smaller dams that's not even regulated, so there were no impacts to homes or roads. The result of that breach, the water actually flowed to Black Creek. Now, what that means is it could contribute, to some of the localized flooding, but no homes or roads were impacted. I do want to also say that yesterday I mentioned that we had identified about 19 dams that we wanted to take a last-minute check. And I want to offer some clarity on that. We have one of the most experienced, best dam safety programs in the nation. And I think a lot of that is due to the experience that we've had over the years in being so well prepared. We're very engaged nationally. And there are things that we learn every storm, and we learn from other states. And that information and expertise helped us identify those dams that we just wanted to take a last-minute check to see if any additional actions might be warranted. The results of those assessments were back on my desk by the end of the day, and I'm happy to say that there were no urgent issues identified in those assessments. I do also acknowledge that there are many citizens that have concerns about dams, and so we do have a number that I want to share, a new number, Governor, because we had quite a few calls yesterday. This number is called our Public Information Phone System, and that number is 1-888-246-0133. That's 1-888-246-0133. So if you're a business or a citizen and you're just want to get some information about the status of dams in your community, you can call that number. I also want to mention drinking water and wastewater systems across the state. We've had no reports of issues reported at this time related to delivery of safe water to our communities, and systems are well prepared with emergency action plans if necessary. From a wastewater perspective, there have been no reports of system-wide impacts, but as expected, we would expect sanitary sewer overflows. Stormwater systems and wastewater systems, just those, the delivery systems, are being infiltrated with a lot of additional water, and as a result, you could see some of these overflows. And that also leads to another point I want to make. You keep hearing from all the agencies the importance of staying out of floodwaters. From an environmental and public health perspective, we need to recognize that in the future, when the floodwaters clear the roads, there's still going to be pockets of saturation around homes, and it's very tempting for people, especially kids and children, to play in those waters. Just emphasize that some of that flood water can have bacteria in there, and also chemicals from urban runoff and stuff. So just wanted to emphasize that. And then in closing, I will just mention coastal impacts. We have no reports of any structures being impacted at this time. No concerns about erosion. We are aware of a tornado in Edisto that may have had an impact on some structures, and we'll be focused on that after the storm clears. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Reese. Director Emily Farr, LLR, Labor License and Regulation.
Thank you, Governor. I can report that the state search and rescue efforts have been well planned and are positioned in a place to be able to respond however they may be needed as the flooding continues to grow across the state. We have all current resource requests that will be filled by the end of the day today using all of our in-state resources that are already deployed throughout the state. We expect the out-of-state resources, these are teams from Tennessee, Alabama, and Michigan, will be deployed by the end of the day. You've heard mention already that we're working very closely with FEMA to roster and deploy all 5 of their search and rescue teams that are already staged here in Columbia. We really appreciate all of the partnership and help across the state of our firefighters across the state that make up our in-state resources for search and rescue, and of course all of these teams outside of the state and with FEMA to help really build a strong search and rescue plan for our citizens. We continue to do future planning in coordination with the Emergency Management Division to be ready to respond to meet additional resource requests that we expect will be made as the storm continues.
Thank you. Director Andrew Bateman, Office of Regulatory Staff.
Thank you, Governor. My name is Andrew Bateman with the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff. Throughout this storm, we've been in frequent communication with utility representatives. As of right now, we stand at approximately 12,129 storm-related outages statewide. Currently, counties in the Low Country, such as Colleton, Beaufort, and Charleston, have been the most impacted with significant amounts of rain and power outages. As the storm progresses and moves north, we expected the PD to be significantly impacted and are expecting widespread power outages. After speaking with utility representatives, I know that they have crews working around the clock diligently to restore power. However, as it is safe to do so. However, please be mindful that as standing floodwaters occur, that may hamper and delay some of the restoration efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody have a question? Yes, sir.
I got some information from, this is for Director Reese, some information earlier about McCready Dam, I believe, which was causing some evacuations. Were folks successfully evacuated when there were concerns about that dam, and how many were impacted?
We had a call with Colleton County this morning to talk about McGrady Dam, plus the one I mentioned, the unregulated dam. We got together our experts with their experts at the local level, and what we determined, there were some reports that maybe it was failing. Actually, what was happening with that dam is the emergency spillway was working as designed, and so it was taking that pressure off of the dam. However, there's so much flooding and so many other things. The county is doing a great job observing that dam. I can't recall the exact number that were impacted as far as homes, but we're really stressing to folks to make sure they follow the advice of the local officials.
So folks were successfully evacuated when that initial report came out?
I'm not sure. We would have to get that from the local officials. Okay, thank you.
Director Reese, actually, to follow up with that, so you mentioned that of the 19 dams that you approximately assessed, you had no concerns, regarding those. Could you give me an idea of where these dams were? Like, where were these dams that you were considering that now are of no concern to you?
One of the, we use a lot of parameters and criteria, but certainly the projected rainfall is one of those first things we look at. And if you look at some of the maps that John Q has shared and some others, where it was, I forget the different categories, but I know there was moderate projected rainfall, significant. We really started with those areas, and we came up, I think, with 8 that were worst case scenario projected rainfall, and then that next layer we added about 11 more. And just an example, I'll give you an example, is that some dams do not have spillways. And so it's just important to make sure those levels were lowered. And in many of those cases, when we went out there, we were able to note that. And then, like I said, we do a lot with lessons learned and just knowing the design of dams very well and the conditions and what we've experienced in the past. There may not be a current condition that gives us a signal it's a problem, but just our experience is saying this is one we probably need to check. Okay.
And to be clear, there were no issues with anything that you found,
that's
or
correct.
anything that you're particularly concerned about?
That's correct. Okay. And the dam owners did what they needed to do.
Director Reese, if the state receives all of that potential rainfall that is predicted over the next few days, do we have any idea how long it will take after the storm stops for the water levels to recede to normal? Are we talking about perhaps a week, 2 weeks? What are the anticipations there?
You know, I can't come up with an exact projection. I think it's going to be site-specific, dam-specific. And if there's any risk, we will do a post-storm assessment. And if we come across a dam that looks like it's at full capacity and the spillway and just the current design is not getting some of that relief off, we may be working with the dam owner to put some siphons in there to relieve some of it. So just as important as our pre-storm assessments or our post-storm assessments.
Thank you. I'll add this about dams and water. When we were about to have a pit overflow in Conway, and we had to put those barriers out along the side of 501 so people could get in and out of Myrtle Beach and Horry County. It was dry. The rains were gone. And this is the water that was building up in the rivers and coming down. So we know that's going to happen. And also, one point, Myra, how many dams do we have? About 40,000 or something like that in the...
We have 2,400 regulated and a total of about 40,000.
Total of about 40,000. That means there's a lot of water in South Carolina, even when it's not raining. That's good because some states don't have any water and they have very few dams to worry about. So we always need to look on the bright side of that. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Excuse me. It was mentioned earlier that there's 11 open shelters. Do you know how many people are currently in those shelters?
Yeah, there's currently 85 citizens who are in the shelters. 81 of those are in Charleston County. 2 are in Dorchester and 2 are in Jasper at this point in time.
Shelters. I didn't hear one in Colleton County yet. We've heard about lots of flooding there. Is there any plans to put one in Colleton County? Where should those folks go? Should they have already been evacuated?
Yeah, I think that the local county officials are determining the need for a shelter there, and we'll be working with them to determine if that's needed.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Governor, you mentioned that there are no fatalities, which is excellent news. Have there been any reports of injuries so far?
I'll ask. Reports? So far, no.
So far, no. And I believe, as Director Stenson mentioned, the swiftwater rescues. Do we know where those have been conducted?
I don't. We haven't.
No.
Sorry. We haven't had to conduct any rescues yet, at least as of a couple hours ago. But all of the teams are in place when or if that is necessary.
Thank you.
Yes.
More questions? Yes, sir.
Governor, at this point, has the situation changed from last night concerning having no evacuation orders that you plan to issue or any state agency?
Nothing has changed.
And are there any local evacuation orders that y'all want folks to heed? We're here in Jasper County, maybe.
Don't know of any.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
You just heard from Governor Henry McMaster as well as several other officials with state and federal agencies. Governor McMaster said so far no fatalities or injuries reported here in South Carolina. Billie Jean, he talked a lot about the flooding in 2018 after Florence and then the flooding here in 2015, and again talked a lot about what they're doing now to prepare for this, but also what we could expect and what to see in the coming days after.
Very important context. We know that a lot of people have been on edge and concerned because the effects from Tropical Storm Debby, as we've heard from our first alert team, could be similar to what we saw in 2015. So not to alarm anyone, not to scare anyone, but it is something that we have to consider when we talk about all the rainfall, the dams. We heard there are 40,000 dams across the state. Good news about the dams. There have been no reports of any dams breaching except a small one in Colleton County that is not regulated. But the overall message that we just heard from state officials, be safe, don't take any chances. However, keep in mind the threat of flooding remains high at this point, specifically if you are in the low country.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing that they talked about too. If you're in a floodplain, have a plan. If you don't know if you're in a floodplain or not, figure that out soon so you can know what to do. Another thing that I thought was really interesting that they talked about is that obviously we could see a lot of flooding here coming up, but in the days to come, once the rivers are moving and that water is coming in. So we really need to stay on alert for days after this as well. But right now, officials are saying very few damage reports, a lot in the most at this point in Colleton County, as well as when it comes to outages. They said about 12,000 storm-related outages, mostly Colleton County, Beaufort, Charleston area still.
And we also heard about a lot of proactive measures, even speaking about some of the crews that have been stationed around the state so far. As the Department of Public Safety, there's going to be a total of 421 officers that's going to be stationed around the area to help with road closures, to help with people who may have some emergency situations. That's coming from the Department of Public Safety. Over 200 officers stationed around the state right now, about 186 officers that will start working the night shift kicking off at 7 this evening. We're also learning that FEMA, we have a federal coordinator partnering with the state in the event that FEMA has to provide any federal assistance. And we're also learning from the National Guard, Major McCartney, confirming that over 100 soldiers are prepared and 50 high water vehicles are on standby, prepped to go out, prepped to help people get out of their homes and whatever they may need in the event of some extreme flooding, and specifically in the low country is what they're looking at.
Right.
But we still need to keep in mind about the things that are happening here, because we heard from our First Alert team about the chances of rain that we will be seeing right here in the Midlands. So a lot of focus on the low country, but even just in Orangeburg, we're talking about 5 to 10 inches of rain in Orangeburg County from now until Friday. And Cynthia, you brought up a really good point. Yes, we're focusing on what's happening now, but it's also the effects of the rain that is going to cause some major concerns.
Right, exactly. And the thing that they kept reiterating too, of course, we always say this, don't drive around the barricades. If you see water, don't go through it. Don't jump in it. It can have bacteria, other issues in the water. So definitely something you want to be aware of. We're also going to pull up a full screen here that has a number that you can call. This is a hotline that they've launched with any questions that you have. You can call them, 866-246-0133. Again, that's going to be available 24 hours a day. You can ask questions that you have, whether it be about shelters, anything else, any other issues that you could run into. But now we want to get over to our First Alert meteorologist, Vaughn Gaskin, because Vaughn, what are we seeing here right now?
Well, we're going to start with what's going on right now with Debby, still a tropical storm. And with Debby, it has been over land. The center of circulation has been over land for over 30 hours now, and it's still holding on to tropical storm status. So as we get in a little bit closer, we're just kind of showing you the radar. We're showing you a lay of the land, who's seeing the heavy rain, who's seeing the gusty wind. So looking at our First Alert radar now, you can see where all the heavy rain is. That counterclockwise flow is allowing it to move from the ocean and then back over land, and that's what we're seeing now. So as we look at some areas seeing some of that heavy rain, you can see how it's pivoting through the state ever so slowly. Center of circulation now over near Savannah, Georgia, preparing to move onshore, move offshore, and back onto land and back onto the water. Once that happens, it's then going to intensify a little bit more. So what we're seeing now is going to get even worse by Thursday. We're going to continue to see the rain and the wind, and it's even going to increase by the time we get into your day Thursday. So a little bit closer here, heavy rain for us over near Eastover, from Eastover near the Congaree National Park into St. Matthews near Cameron. This is an area that also had a flash flood warning in place. That will stay with us until about 3:30. Speaking of some of those warnings, so right now we do have the flood watch. That's going to be in place until 8 o'clock. That's for the lighter shade of green. And then along coastal communities, remember Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester, they're under a tornado watch, and they also have a separate flood watch in place. And then there is a flash flood warning. That is the deeper green color you see here for parts of Sumter County, parts of Orangeburg, Calhoun, Clarendon counties as well. So that's what that deeper kind of etched out octagon shape is there. And that is for flash flood warning. And that stays in place until 3:30. That means it's happening now. The heavy rain is coming down at a very high clip, and we're expecting it to give us 1 to 3 3 additional inches of rain during that time frame that they marked out. With the winds, it's kind of adding insult to injury. Right now, we're tracking a wind gust of 23 miles per hour in St. Matthews, in Sumter at 21, Manning at 21, and also 21 in Orangeburg. And this is the area I'm pointing out because this is the area right now seeing the heaviest rain and also seeing the flash flooding that's in place. But the winds up near Winnsboro, you're extremely high at 23 miles per hour, 19 miles per hour in Lexington, 18 miles per hour for us in Chester, and 17 in Lancaster. So as we kind of continue to give you more information, the wind gusts are coming up a little bit higher. That's when the wind blows at this speed for less than 1 minute. So we're looking at 25 miles per hour in Sumter, 23 for us in St. Matthews, 20 in Manning, 24 in Bishopville, 18 in Kingstree, and 28 in Lexington. So the wind gusts are extremely high, and we're starting to get to that point where the ground is getting so saturated that any of those shallow trees, those trees that may have just kind of been sitting in standing water for days on end, they're going to start to have issues. All it takes is a gust of wind and it could topple some of those shallow roots on some of those trees. So for some areas like in St. Matthews, in Orangeburg, Manning, and some of these areas to our south, they've already taken on about 24 hours of rain already. And so the ground is starting to get very saturated here. The 24-hour rain totals coming up to over 3/4 of an inch in Lexington and in Columbia. St. Matthews, Orangeburg, you're approaching the 1 inch mark. You're at about 1.25 inches in Sumter. So as we look at the estimated rainfall totals for 48 hours. I'm going to give you 48 hours of rainfall based on our radar. This is based on what the radar produced and what the radar thinks came down to the ground. And for areas like Hendersonville, which is near Cottageville and in parts of just heading into the low country there in Colleton County, they're at 12, 13 inches of rain already in those areas. And then as we move away from there and start to move closer into Orangeburg County, which is showing up in this purple color, they're coming in with this particular estimate at about 3.5 to 4 inches there. The extreme tip of Orangeburg County, almost 7 inches, about 4.5 inches for the northern reaches of Orangeburg County. And then between Orangeburg and Columbia, I'm calculating about 2 inches. A little bit closer here, right in town in Columbia, about 1 inch or so. That's pretty good, a pretty good estimate, I think. But there's certainly some areas here that have seen higher amounts. This is what we call locally higher amounts. And so there's an area, let's say between Pontiac and Camden, that's at about 3.5 inches. So there are some areas here and there in some spots that have higher numbers than that 1 inch total. As we look at our excessive rainfall, we are still predicting more flash flooding is possible. The high risk of flash flooding is possible for this deep purple color. That means there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to get a flash flood warning or 2 or 3 more before this is all said and done. And so the deep purple color has the best chance of seeing that, and we actually have one ongoing in that area. The area in the red, that's your moderate area for flash flooding. You probably will get another one when things kind of start to re-intensify. Once we get the center of circulation to come back on shore by Wednesday night into Thursday, we could possibly see heavier rain and gusty winds invoking some flash flooding in that area. So as we break down the final rainfall totals, let's remember this. I've already showed you the numbers of how we've already seen 3, 4, and 5 inches in our area. We're going to add to that. So when we started this, we were showing you 10 inches that we could possibly see. So if you add that, which started yesterday up until where we are now, and this is what we're going to continue to see. This is additional rainfall. 7 to 10 inches not out of the question for us in parts of Columbia. And then as you move away from the center of circulation, anywhere from about 2 to 5 inches still possible for you. 5 to 7 for us if you go south of the city. Let's say if you're going to be in areas closer to, let's go ahead and put Lexington County in that, northern Orangeburg County as well. And we've kind of talked about Orangeburg being a tough cookie here just because it is getting a lot of the low country moisture there, a lot of that low country forecast, but it is also still in our viewing area with the Midlands. So that's an area that could, possibly see upwards of another 10 inches of rain. So what's the forecast looking like? We're going to change things over now to Chief Meteorologist Adam Clark to go ahead and give us a little bit more information on what's to come now that we've kind of set it up for what has already happened.
Thank you very much, Vaughn. All righty, let's take a look at what we're dealing with Debbie. Our brand new information is showing heavy rain and gusty wind tonight, mainly east of I-20. And then there's going to be a lull in the action for our Wednesday morning and into the early afternoon. So we'll get a little bit of a break. So as we head towards Wednesday, it looks like. In the evening, our eastern counties will start to see some of this rain starting to march from the east to the west. And then we're looking at strong winds and even tornado potential with heavy rain Thursday morning. It could be a Wednesday night into Thursday morning time frame for us. So that could be a serious part. And we're going to show you that here with our future casts. Now, we still have 3 first alert weather days, one for today, heavy rain and wind. We still are going to keep it up for Wednesday. It looks a little better throughout the morning for Wednesday, and then into the afternoon it picks back up and into the evening. And Thursday we can have strong winds as it kind of gains strength as it moves over the ocean and then comes back inland. And yes, tornadoes are a possibility as it does that. Now, the excessive rainfall risk, now this is just through Wednesday morning. So the rest of the day today into tonight into Wednesday morning. We have high condition here throughout the low country and even portions of the Midlands. Notice Sumter, Richland County here, Calhoun, Orangeburg, Clarendon, all in on that. Bamberg, you're in it too. And it's a moderate risk here around Columbia and Camden, also Aiken, and stretching all the way over into Chesterfield County. So we have flash flood warnings in effect until 3:30. So another 30 minutes on this warning right here around Orangeburg, Calhoun, Sumter. This just means that waters can rise very rapidly and flood roadways. And the rest of the region, we have this watch, and that lasts until 8 o'clock Thursday, and that includes Lexington, Richland, Kershaw, Lee, Sumter, Clarendon, and also Calhoun and Orangeburg County. Now down to the south, there's all the tropical storm warnings, and we've also have some tornado watches out there, flood warnings. This is all down over to the east towards Horry County, Charleston, Hilton Head, still dealing with a good bit of rain. So our risks tonight through Thursday, tornadoes are on there, but it's a low risk. Strong winds elevated. River flooding moderate. The rivers are already starting to rise as all this moisture comes in from the upstate and whatever we get here, especially into the low country. And flooding is our highest concern with this system. So here's Debbie as of 2 o'clock. We just got an update around 2 o'clock. It has winds at 40 miles per hour. That's to be expected. The center is right around Tybee Island and Savannah currently. So pressure's at 999. We're going to see it move over to the east at 8 o'clock. It starts to strengthen. By tomorrow morning, it's back up to 50 mile per hour winds. And look, by Thursday morning, we're at 60 mile per hour winds. As it moves back over the ocean, it starts to strengthen a bit. Even though half of it is pretty much over land, it's still being fed tropical moisture from the ocean, and also half of it has no friction, so it's able to kind of gain some strength as it turns back into South Carolina. And as we head into Thursday around 8 o'clock in the evening, we're talking 45 mile per hour winds, and that includes the portions of the Midlands. So the track could be anywhere in this cone. It could be a little bit farther to the west. And as you just saw Vaughn's map just earlier, that the rain totals have marched to the west just a little bit. So it includes here in Columbia around 7 to 10 inches of additional rain on top of what we've already seen. And then the jet stream finally picks it up and scoots it out of here by Friday morning. So here are tropical storm winds. We're going to take a look at that. There's this purple that you see here. It's a 90% chance of having tropical storm winds. So it's likely, right? So we're going through this Wednesday evening. Here it is at 11 o'clock. The tropical storm winds starting to arrive here around Columbia as we head towards 9 in the evening Thursday. So we've got the chance of having at least 39 mile per hour winds here around Columbia and also in areas of Sumter County, especially down towards Orangeburg County. So Clarendon County, you definitely have a better shot of having those winds over 39 miles per hour, even upwards of 45 miles per hour as this makes its way up to the north. Now, it continues north and out of here as we head towards Saturday. Now, as you can see, the wind is a factor, and we'll show you this here too. It's got gusts of around 36 miles per hour, so this is at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Here it is at 7. And then it looks a little more quiet. This is what I was talking about, a bit of a lull for your Wednesday morning. So Wednesday morning looking okay. Have some showers still in the area, relatively speaking, let's say that. We can still see some rain out there, gusts up to 30 miles per hour or so. And then by Wednesday afternoon, it's those eastern counties where we start to see the heavy rain and the gusty winds coming back into play. Here it is around 3 o'clock and at 7, gusts up to 45 to 43 to 29, even 36. And then it starts to move in. Now the tropical storm is starting to make its way back inland, right? So that's why you're seeing the rain slowly move from the east to the west. So Winnsboro, now you're seeing the rain Wednesday evening. Now this is what has me most concerned. Right around 1 in the morning, Thursday, look at this, gusts up to 48, 37, 38 miles per hour at 1 in the morning there, and then it continues to the west by 3 o'clock in the morning. So we've got an overnight event here as the center of the storm is starting to make its way over our region. You can see the center of the storm just by looking at this wind that I've got here. So really it's right over Columbia at 6 in the morning. So here it is right around 6 in the morning Thursday. So here's Thursday, and then it starts to march its way to the west. So we've got Newberry, Lawrence County, Greenwood County getting in on some of this action too, even up towards Chester. Meanwhile, here in Columbia, things are a little bit more calm. So Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, pretty rough. And then as we head into mid-morning, it gets a little bit better, at least here in Columbia, but you can still see now our western counties have the chance of seeing some of these gusty winds and heavy rain. Here it is around 6 o'clock, and as we head into Friday, it pushes up to the north, and we're done for your Friday, so yay for that. But here's the European model. It's got about almost a foot of rain in Orangeburg, around north, 12 inches. It's showing 8.6 here in Columbia, 8.8 in Camden, 7.4, and this is, of course, additional rain on top of what's already fallen, 7.2 in Newberry, and it has it at 2.1 in Saluda, about 6.9 in Bishopville. So here again is a wider shot so you can kind of see exactly where it's going. It's pushing off into the ocean by 3 o'clock Wednesday. This is why it's starting to quiet down a bit, but it's gaining strength, right? It's starting to get a little stronger as it moves over the ocean here, and then it pushes inland by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when we're dealing with all that rain and the wind and the problematic causes of tornadic activity. We could see tornadic activity for your Thursday because of this. And then it starts to weaken as we head into your Friday. So currently, the biggest swath of moisture we've got is one big feeder band over in the ocean moving into North Carolina. It's basically being fed moisture currently. And over the land, not quite as strong over in Georgia, but this is just going to sit here and pivot over here to the south and to the east. So Tropical Storm Debby, still a big threat. It's weakened down to 40 miles per hour, but we're thinking it will gain a little bit of strength up to 60 miles per hour here shortly. So here's the radar again. We've got one band up to the north here around Saluda County in areas of Newberry County up towards Fairfield. Heaviest rain here around Columbia and Orangeburg. We've got some heavier showers there, and we'll kind of zoom in on that really quickly. I'm going to zoom in like this. Let me get a little closer. So you can see here in town, we've got some steady rain, but just south of town, some very, very heavy rain. Around Eastover at 48, St. Matthews, some downpours in that region, and over towards Sumter as well. So the next 2 days, we've got first alert weather days for Wednesday and Thursday, 100% chance of rain for both days. Temperatures in the 80s. And then Friday, 60% chance in the early morning hours. Dry air comes in into your Friday or Saturday and Sunday. Just an isolated shower then, and then upper 80s by Monday and Tuesday. Billie Jean and Cynthia.
All right, Chief Meteorologist Adam Clark giving us an update along with meteorologist Von Gaskin on Tropical Storm Debby. Thank you for the insight. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to check in with some of our crews stationed across the state tracking Debby.
That's right. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
From Columbia, South Carolina, WIS News 10 starts with First Alert Weather.
Thanks for staying with us as we continue to track Tropical Storm Debby as it makes its way toward the Midlands.
Just a short time ago, Governor Henry McMaster, along with several other state leaders and federal leaders, spoke about the preparations being stationed around the state right now as we are expecting some extreme rainfall, specifically a lot of mention of the low country area, but we do have some areas that we're watching in the Midlands, including Orangeburg County, that is expected to have a total of up to 10 inches of rain being predicted there now through Friday. We want to talk about power outages as well. Right now, poweroutage.us is reporting about 8,100 customers without power, more than 8,000 across the state, again, mainly in the low country, where we learned during that press conference there were winds up to 60 miles per hour. Right now, the tropical storm winds have gone down to about 40 miles per hour, but still causing a lot of concerns.
Exactly. And we also heard from officials talking about power outages, saying, you know, as the wind picks up, we could see even more in more areas. Right now, they said most of the storm-related outages they're seeing in Colleton County area, Charleston area, and Beaufort. And that's where we find our Nick Neville in St. Helena Island, a few miles east of Beaufort. We're going to try to go to him live if we have him ready to go. Okay, so we do have Nick standing by. We're going to go live now to Nick Neville, again in St. Helena Island, where they're seeing a lot of damage as well.
Yes, so we are here on St. Helena Island, which is just a few miles east of Beaufort. This is really the greatest extent of the damages that we've been seeing so far today. Along this road here, they've got Dominion Energy crews, some tree trimming crews are also out here, really along this entire stretch of road where there's several houses. We actually spoke to an individual who lives in one of these homes. He says he's never seen anything like this. We have down trees all along this entire road, down limbs. He was saying that he was in his home right around 1 a.m. yesterday when the power went out for about 3 minutes, and during that period of time, he looked outside and he saw some of this damage. He said at one point there were a couple close calls in there. There was a tree that fell right adjacent to his neighbor's home, but again, a tornado watch in this area of Beaufort around 1 a.m. last night. That's when some of this storm hit. There were some heavy winds and also a lot of rain that came through late last night. Of course, just a light drizzle right now. It hasn't been raining over the past couple hours here, but really just this one individual on this side of Beaufort County telling us that he's never seen the extent of this damage since 2016 with Hurricane Matthew. Again, this is now a tropical storm, Debby, not a hurricane, but you can see when you combine this significant rain event with the strong winds that were happening late last night, the extent of some of the damage that that can do. We'll send it back to you in the studio for now.
Nick Neville reporting live from Beaufort County on St. Helena Island. You can see some spotty service there, which is just giving you more context to some of those strong winds and rains as we are putting our reporters out there and they are staying safe. We want to show you some more footage from the low country. Right now, these are photos from Edisto Beach where we are going to show you the damaged home and flooding there. If you take a close look, these pictures came in from Gris McDonald, who has property down in Edisto Beach, and you can see this footage of the flooded roads. And this is exactly why we heard from the state leaders about an hour ago telling you to stay off of the roadways, to be careful. We are thankful that he was able to safely send us this video, but this just is one example of what's happening now and what's to come. I know the low country is used to rain, they're used to flooding, but you still have to treat this as a safety concern because it only takes one simple mistake or ignoring a barrier or just being too trusted in what you think you may know. This is not the time to say, I know this road, I've been down it, driving down it for 20 plus years. This is not the time because as we've heard and as we've seen here in South Carolina, just think about the 2015 flood. You cannot be too safe when it comes to that heavy rainfall.
And it doesn't take too much water, as we know, to sweep away cars, people, of course. So you want to stay safe also. And, you know, in Edisto, that we heard from officials during that briefing, there is a concern that there was a possible tornado. Still waiting to get confirmation on that. But right now, what you're seeing here, flooded roads in and around Charleston. Definitely seeing a lot of the flooding right now. We're seeing it in the low country, of course. Still concerns that we could see that here in the Midlands too. In our next video as well, like we were saying, some possible tornadoes. National Weather Service has not confirmed this yet in any of these cases, and it could take a while for them to get out there and confirm this information. But again, always some issues that we could have. Like we said, residents believe a twister touchdown just before 3 a.m. in Monk's Corner. That's about 45 minutes north of Charleston. High winds damaged a fast food restaurant. They flipped over several cars, and some people reported minor injuries but did not need medical attention because of it.
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. And again, like we were saying, not sure if this is a confirmed tornado at this point. Officials believe it was, but it's going to take some time for National Weather Service to get out there and
Definitely
check everything out.
Have to survey the area and confirm. We do want to also remind our viewers that we have crews stationed all around the state. Our Nick Neville is in Beaufort County covering the Low Country. Ashley Jones is in Orangeburg County. She's actually headed to a shelter there that opened today at the Orangeburg City Gym. Now, I want to talk about the shelters. There are several shelters that are going to be opening across the state, some regulated by DSS. Others are going to be city operated. For example, about 25 minutes ago, the city of Columbia opened a shelter downtown. We'll have that information online and bring you more details about that. But if you do need to evacuate, if you do feel like you're in a flood-prone area, they're asking that you leave now. Don't wait until it gets bad, and make sure you bring identification. Make sure you bring blankets, important documents like insurance, paperwork for your home, those types of things that you're going to need in the event that your home receives some type of damage. But most importantly, if you are in some of those areas that you know is going to be a little tricky when it comes to the rainfall, flooding, and downed trees, now is the time to leave and evacuate.
Exactly, and we have this information on our website, wistv.com. Also, there is a hotline that you can call with issues. We have that on our website as well. We've been putting it up on the newscast, 866-246-0133. We have it right there on your screen. That's for South Carolina residents. If you have any questions, it's available 24 hours a day. Definitely a helpful resource that they just launched for people in South Carolina.
Absolutely. We want to show you another snapshot of what's happening in the Low Country, as that's where we're seeing the most movement right now. We're not forgetting the Midlands, of course, but we're just not seeing too many flood reported areas. So we want to take you to the Low Country where Nick Reagan is in downtown Charleston. Take a look at this.
Floodwaters have definitely arrived with the rain not stopping. It's a little easier right now, but certainly about 15 minutes ago, the rain was horizontal, and of course it has brought in all of this water in downtown Charleston. We're probably in the worst place that floods in downtown, right by MUSC. Let me just show you just how deep this water is. Out here by the crosswalk, as I'm walking backwards, hopefully I don't fall in. It's up to my knees. Now this is my flood measuring device, a little PVC pipe. The red is a foot, blue 2 feet. Put it down in here. We're almost at 2 feet of water in this one spot alone. Now most of this road, about a foot, but right here in particular, up to my knees, 2 feet. It's a lot of water here in downtown Charleston. And of course, this is just day one of Tropical Storm Debby. We're expecting still much more rain. Reporting live in downtown Charleston, Nick Reagan, Live 5 News.
Yeah, like you said, a lot more rain to be expected. As our first alert meteorologists are giving their forecast, I keep thinking this is really just the beginning. A lot more that we're going to have to deal with, and we'll be with you on air and online through it all. And we're going to be checking in with them soon, but we're going to take some more looks across the area.
Right now, we want to take you to Savannah, Georgia, where there are flooded roads. Shay Schreider has more on that.
I'm in front of one of several flooded roads here in Savannah. This particular road just south of a major interchange to get onto the highway. And as you can see, several unfortunate people have tried to make their way through the floodwaters and ended up with their engines stalling out. Now, leaders in Savannah and Chatham County have been encouraging people over the last several days not to leave their homes at all if they don't have to, but have asked specifically that if you see flooded roads, turn around, don't drown. There are, again, again, more flooded roads around the area, and we're only expecting to see more widespread flooding as Tropical Storm Debby continues to bear down on the area, and there's no telling what effects we could see the more rain we continue to get. For Gray News, I'm Shay Schrader.
Alrighty, really good details there. Just gives you a snapshot of what's happening as we are continuing to track Tropical Storm Debby. Now, of course, Debby started off as a hurricane. It has now been downgraded to a tropical storm, but the effects are very much still going to be impactful, especially when you think about that rainfall that we're going to be dealing with.
That's right, a lot more coming. So let's check in now with our First Alert meteorologist, Vaughn Gaskin. Hey, Vaughn.
Absolutely, ladies. The thing is, Debby is still a tropical storm, and it's really serving up some impressive numbers because it's already been over land for about 30 hours. And so with it being over land for all of this time, you usually see a tropical storm, a tropical system start to weaken. It starts to usually break down, but this one is holding together very, very well. It's now about to take on another cycle where it's going to start to move offshore. So once it does, it's going to move offshore. It's going to intensify a little bit then. So Tropical Storm Debby, still a tropical storm. Winds are at 40 miles per hour. You can see where the center of circulation is now, probably just to the north of Savannah, expected to move off the coast and then spend a little bit of time almost gaining intensification, gaining energy, strengthening. Once that happens, it will then move back on shore. That's when we're really concerned about what kind of energy it picks up and then brings back to us over land. That's all expected to take place right around, let's say, late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. That's when the winds are expected to go up, not down, but go back up to about 60 miles per hour by that Thursday morning time frame. So we see it lifting up to the north there and then getting out of our hair by Friday or so. So for now, we still have several days to deal with this. So with our First Alert radar, let's get you in here and just kind of show you who's seeing the rain, and that's everyone. We have now calculated rain in all of our locations. One of the areas hardest hit right near St. Matthews, near the Congaree National Park and near Cameron. You just heard that alarm go off. They already had a flash flood warning that expired at 3:30. They have now issued a new one that will go until 5. And that is for the area here. It was over St. Matthews, Orangeburg, and Vance. Now it's sliding up to parts of Eastover, Sumter, Turbeville, and Manning until 5 o'clock. But it's for the same thing. Intense rain falling in a short amount of time. It's happening now. That means you need to make sure you're watching your surroundings very, very closely and never driving through those flooded roadways. Now that flood watch, that's still in place. That's the one that just kind of says the stage is set for flash flooding, and that is actually what we're expecting to stay with us until we get into your Thursday at 8 o'clock. That's when we'll see that flood watch come down. So the flash flood warning is in place until 5 o'clock, and again, that's for a portion until 5:30, and that is for a portion of Sumter and Manning. So watch all of these areas for extreme flooding, and you know how that water just starts to run sometimes. You can be driving through it. Watch out for ponding on roads, and it's really just best to stay put if you can. Now let's transition and talk a little bit about your current winds. Wind out there, remember, this is a counterclockwise flow. So with the wind, with that center of circulation being down near Tybee Island, near Savannah, that is giving us that counterclockwise flow. So we're getting that northeasterly wind coming in at 19 in Camden and in Columbia, 17 sustained for us in Lexington, 26 in St. Matthews, Manning, and Orangeburg. I gotta say, this is the area so far that we have seen the most impacts, and that's going to be somewhere near St. Matthews, Sumter, Manning, Orangeburg, right in that cluster, because you're on your second flash flood warning and you are tracking some of the highest wind speeds and wind gusts. The gusts up to 25 in Sumter and 22 in Manning, 23 in Lexington. So far for the 24-hour time frame, we have seen about an inch of rain right in the heart of the Midlands and in St. Matthews. So right near Columbia, you're at about 3/4 of an inch. You're getting to that half-inch mark in Camden, and about 1/4 of an inch for us in Winsboro. These are the official numbers for 24 hours. Well, I'm going to double that down and go ahead and add 48 hours altogether. And the rainfall so far takes us up to about 13.5 near Hendersonville, Cottageville, and those communities there. And so away from that area into our neck of the woods, we're seeing areas on the top part of Orangeburg County starting to get to that 3.5-inch mark. We're getting the numbers to really start adding up here. So between Orangeburg and Columbia, you're a little over an inch, but actually have some spots that are at about 2 to 2.5 inch near Eastover. Like I mentioned, that area that seems to be seeing the roughest weather near Eastover, Sumter, in that Congaree National Park area, you're at that 2.5 to 1.5 inch mark of rain. And this is taking into account about 2 days. So when we first started this and we were telling you that we would see 10 to 15 inches of rain in some areas, remember, we started adding those up yesterday. So we're kind of chipping away at some of those numbers. So we're still having that risk of excessive rainfall. That means flash flooding is expected. So the rain that's already on the ground, we're going to add to it another 5 to 7 inches in areas, let's say between Columbia and Orangeburg. Orangeburg, you could possibly see 7 to 10 inches. You're in that area where you could possibly get as high as another 10 inches of rain, especially in that Boot Heel area, let's say over near Santee, in those communities there, you could possibly get another 10 inches of rain. So we're continuing to track what's going on with Debby, still a tropical storm, still with winds at 40 miles per hour. But what's happening next? We're going to talk about that forecast with Chief Meteorologist Adam Clark here.
Thank you very much, Vaughn. Well, let's take a look at that flash flood warning. It just came out until 5:30. It includes Richland County, Sumter County, also sections of Clarendon County, Lee County, and also Kershaw County. So another couple hours left on that one. The one down in Calhoun and Orangeburg has been allowed to expire as of 3:30, but we still have this watch in effect until 8 o'clock Thursday. So Lexington, Richland, Kershaw, Lee, Sumter, Clarendon, Calhoun, and Orangeburg still under this watch. Now, here's what we're going to expect for the rest of the day today and into tonight. Steady tropical downpours, some area flooding, winds around 15 to 25 miles per hour with gusts near about 35 miles per hour, flooded roadways, and the rivers are going to be rising throughout the night tonight. We still have 3 first alert weather days, one for today, heavy rain and wind. Wednesday, we'll have some showers and still a good bit of breeze because the system is slowly moving over to the east. And then as it comes back west, we see Thursday with some strong winds. Tornadoes are a possibility for your Thursday, and of course more heavy rain. That's the big culprit for this whole system and just how slow it's moving around our region. So excessive rainfall risk for tonight through Wednesday morning. It's really high for the low country and even portions of the Midlands as well. All of Orangeburg County is on here, Calhoun County as well, most of Sumter, Lee County, the southern half here, and Clarendon County. Meanwhile, here in Columbia, it's a moderate risk of excessive rain throughout the night tonight and into tomorrow morning. Now, as far as the watches and warnings go, we still have a lot of warnings, tropical storm warnings down around the coast, including Myrtle Beach, and all the boxes that you see on here, well, that's flash flood warnings. And this is that area that we were most concerned about with over 20 inches of rain. That's still a possibility down in that region. Let's take a look at the satellite and radar. You can see that moisture is just being fed. The center of low pressure right here, right over Savannah at around 999 millibars in and around Savannah and Tybee Island. But all this moisture is coming in off the Atlantic and being fed into South Carolina, into the Midlands. So there it is. There's that moisture being drawn in, and that's why it's able to keep its form, because half of it is over land. Usually whenever a storm is over land, it doesn't really strengthen all that much. And this one has not, because half of it is over land. But as this meanders over the ocean here and then pivots back up to the north and to the west, it strengthens actually. So our risks are there. Tornadoes, it's there, but low. Strong winds, River flooding, moderate to high risk, that's going to be a later on event. Friday and even into Saturday, we're going to see our rivers slowly rise as all of this moisture moves through the Midlands and down into the low country. Now, Tropical Storm Debby is also causing another problem in that all that onshore flow that we're getting that I just showed you is going to inhibit those rivers from emptying into the Atlantic Ocean. So imagine a small storm surge of around 2 to 4 feet. And it's not that strong, but it's enough to, hey, stop that water from flowing. So that's going to cause more flooding in areas around the coast of South Carolina. So right now the winds are 40 miles per hour. It's moving east-northeast at 5 miles per hour. The pressure's at 999. And as you can see, it just kind of goes out to sea a little bit, strengthens up to 50 by 8 o'clock Wednesday, and then 60 miles per hour by 8 o'clock Thursday. And then as it moves up to the north, Thursday at 8 o'clock, 45 mile per hour winds. So that's still tropical storm force wind. And that could be anywhere from the eastern sections of North Carolina and bad scenario for us, western sections of South Carolina. So that's the track. It's slow moving systems like this with very little steering from the upper levels. It's really hard to pinpoint. So that's why you're seeing a pretty wide track from the National Hurricane Center. Now, as we head into Friday and beyond, it really speeds up throughout areas of Virginia and throughout the northeast. But tropical storm winds, the purple that you see here, 90% chance of tropical storm winds of at least 39 miles per hour. So we're stopping at around 10 o'clock Wednesday evening. You can see, starting to see some activity around Sumter County, Richland County. We're going to head on into Thursday. Thursday, that's when I'm most concerned of getting those tropical storm force winds for your Thursday. And with winds around 39, 45 mile per hour gusts as this center makes its way over the region. And then it moves out of here as we head into the weekend and we dry up. But currently, we've got some downpours right now, so the model's doing a decent job of initiating well. And then it's got that rain pushing down to the south and east by 7 o'clock a little bit. Remember, the system's moving east away from us for our Wednesday. So that's what's going to give us that lull for Wednesday morning into the early afternoon. So here it is at 10 in the morning, and then into the early afternoon, we start to see it starting to come back. The system's starting to move to the west. We have breaks, though, here and there for your Wednesday, so don't think, oh, it's over for Wednesday, because it's really just halfway done. And because Wednesday night, that's when we can expect the really heavy rain and gusty winds throughout. Now, 39 mile per hour winds in Sumter, 44 in Bishopville, 34 around Camden. Here it is Thursday early morning, 48 mile per hour winds in Camden, 36 in Columbia. And of course, these are just gusts, but still that can knock down trees for sure. So trees being knocked down because of all the saturated soils. Know that we could lose power, a lot of power outages. That's a possibility as we head throughout the night Wednesday and into Thursday morning. And the confidence is a little higher because this is exactly what it was showing yesterday. So yesterday it was showing the same thing. And then as we head into Thursday around 6 o'clock, still that heavy downpour from around Columbia up to the north and to the west. Now, looking at 10 o'clock, that heavy rain is up towards the upstate. Now, that's new information because Lawrence County, Greenwood County over towards Saluda and Union, Spartanburg, actually getting in on some of this moisture even into Thursday. But we have the center of low pressure right over us. It's like Savannah right now. They're not getting that much rain right now because the center of the low is right over them. That's what's kind of happening to us right around Thursday. And you can see that swirl right here. Just follow the arrows right over Columbia by 1 o'clock. That's pretty interesting. So those that feel joint pain will feel it as this makes its way through. I get that comment a lot from folks, especially with tropical systems, and it pushes up to the north by Friday. And Friday, we can try to relax and try to clean up. Now, here's what the European is showing now for the remainder, how much rain we're expected to get. It has it's now at 3.6, 4.2 in Bishopville, 5.6. It's reduced it significantly, 3.3 around Manning, 4.2 St. Matthews. So I also wanted to talk about why is it just hovering around us for so long. The jet stream is up to the north, right? It's not really bothering us. We just have this low by itself, a big ridge of high pressure over to the west, and there's one over to the east, and it's kind of inhibiting it from even moving. So here it is Wednesday, moves down to the south a little bit. Thursday starts to move to the north. Now we're watching this trough right here start to move down to the south, and that helps, hey, pick it up and move it out of here as we head into Friday and into Saturday. So currently, heavy downpours down to the south here around Columbia. We've got one band that's moving through areas of Saluda County, also areas of Newberry County, and down to the south of Columbia, heavy downpours around Orangeburg, over to the east in areas of Sumter County there, and even the warning right here, the flash flood warning for Manning and around Sumter. Have some very heavy rain currently in that region. So just stay indoors. You saw the live reports from Charleston and Savannah. Don't cross those roadways. You see what happens. The car will stall out and you're going to be stuck, and that's a lot of damage right there. You just lost your car. So the next 2 days, we've got Wednesday and Thursday. 100% chance of rain for both days, first alert weather days. Friday morning, it's in the early morning hours, and then into the afternoon, we start to dry up. And the weekend is actually looking pretty good with highs in the low 90s to upper 80s. Cynthia and Billie Jean.
All right, Adam, thank you so much. And thank you all so much for staying with us throughout our coverage.
And don't forget that we will continue to keep you updated on the latest as we are tracking Tropical Storm Debby by heading to our own app on your phone and WISTV.com. And we want to pull up that emergency line for viewers once more. If you have any questions surrounding Tropical Storm Debby, this is the number to call, 1-866-246-0133, available 24 hours a day.
That's right, and all that information, as well as all the information we've covered here, is on our website. Our First Alert weather team is updating our website constantly as well, so make sure to stay posted there, WISTV.com.